and welcome to our first episode of Basic Bicycle Know-How. On this first video, we're going to give you some cycling tips of how to look at your bike from a mechanic's point of view. We're going to show you how to identify your tire size, how to identify the right tube that you need to use and the different valve stems that come with the tubes. And finally, we're going to show you how to change a flat tire, which is essential knowledge if you're out in the open and you're not close to anyone. You want to change your tires so you can get back on the road, get back home, or get back wherever you are. So stay with us and let's get to it. Alright folks, so before we get started, make sure you subscribe to our channel, hit the like button and hit the little bell button so you get notified when we upload another video. We want to do a whole video series based on your feedback on what you want to know, what you want to learn, and how we can help you become better cyclists, not only by riding, but by taking care of your bike. So let's get to it right now. Alright, so like I said, let's go over some basic stuff about your tires and your tubes and how much pressure you need to put in there. And this is all common knowledge that you as a cyclist need to know. Especially if you're a new cyclist, you need to know what kind of tire you have on your bike and what kind of tube it takes in case you have a flat tire. Believe me, this is the #1 question we get asked at the bike shop when people come in for repairs. I don't know what tire I have, I don't know what tube my tire takes, and it just fits it for me. So now we're going to give you the tools to fit your tire, or at least when you come to the bike shop to purchase a tube or purchase a new tire, you're going to know exactly what to ask for. That way you ensure that the stuff you're purchasing is going to go on your bike and fit perfectly. So first thing first, so tire size. If you have a bike right now at home, the tire size is printed on the sidewall of your tire. So for this tire here, you can see this is the tire size, 24 by 1.95. The 24 refers to the diameter of the tire, and the 1.95 is the width of the tire. So this is very important. There's several 24-inch tires out there with different widths, so you want to get as similar width replacement as you have currently on your bike. Or if you're going up in the width or down in the width, you're going to know exactly what the width is. So if you're going up on this one, so let's say you have a 24 by 1.95 tire and you want to go up to a 2.1 tire, then you're going to ask for a 24 by 2.1 tire. As far as the tube, you're going to want to replace the tube. Let's say you had a flat tire here, your tire is still good, you want to replace the tube inside, you're going to go and ask for a 24 by 195 tube. We'll get to talk a little bit more about the tubes in the next section, but just keep that in mind. The second piece of important information is the tire pressure. Tire pressure is very important, and it's the #1 thing that is going to prevent you from having flats. If you're running under pressure tires, the chance of you getting a flat tire is exponentially increased. So each tire, as you can see here, has printed on the sidewall what is the maximum pressure that tire takes. Optimally, you want to try to inflate that tire to that maximum pressure. Now there are some bikes out there that have different size rims and all other features that might affect the inflation procedure, but for the most part you want to go for what the tire says. So in this case, this is a 65 max PSI tire, so you want to inflate this tire to 65 PSI. That will keep you from getting flat tires, and it will roll a lot better. It will also ensure that your tire wears in the right way. Now, for example, on this road bike here, it's going to have the same information printed somewhere on the tire. So you can see it right here. This is a 700 by 28C tire. So the 700 pertains to the diameter of the wheel, and then the 28C is the width of the tire. So the same goes for this tire or any other tire. You want to make sure you look at the tires you have, find those two numbers that will give you the tire size, and find the number that gives you the pressure that you need to inflate it to. So that is #1 for basic info about how to replace your tires, how to replace your tubes, or in case you have a flat tire, how to go about and changing it. Alright, so let's talk about tubes. So the tube is that inner casing, the inner rubber casing that goes inside your tire, and this is what gets punctured when you get a punctured tire. So what happens is whatever is puncturing your tire is going to go through the tire and puncture this casing. Sometimes you get a slow leak, which is a small puncture that goes down over time, or an actual puncture that just immediately goes down and you lose all the air. Every single bike out there has tubes, or it comes with tubes from the manufacturer or place of purchase. The only time that you're not going to encounter a tube is that if you purposely change that setting to be a tubeless setting. And we can talk about that in another video. If you guys have comments or questions about the tubeless setting, just leave it in the comment section. We'll take that feedback and we'll maybe do another video just on tubeless settings. So going back to tubes, this rubber casing, the tubes, come in different sizes. We already talked about how to identify the right size for your tire. So when you go purchase a tube, you want to keep in mind that tire size that you have, so that way you can purchase the right tube. Now, there's only one characteristic left on the tubes that is very important, and is the valve stem. The valve stem on the tube differs from one to another. There's actually 3 kinds of valve stems out there, but the 2 most common are these 2 right here, and we'll get to each one in a little bit in a minute. But you want to basically get the right valve stem for your rim. You know, one is not interchangeable with the other, so your rim is drilled for a specific valve stem, and you want to keep it that way so your performance will stay in the right track. So let's take a closer look at this 2 here. So the first one we're going to talk about is the Presta valve. The Presta valve is the skinny valve that you see here, and you know, for some reason a lot of people have trouble with this Presta valve because it has some specific characteristics that we're going to go over here. The one thing I want to mention, this valve and any other valve comes in different lengths. The length refers to how long the valve is, and you want to keep that in mind when you go buy a replacement tube. You want to make sure this length is going to be long enough to cover going through the rim and having enough to attach your pump afterwards to pump it up. So going back to the Presta valve will come threaded like this, and you have this little nut that will secure it to your rim, or it will become smooth, or it will come smooth as opposed to the threaded too. So you got those 2 variations, very minor. You can get one versus the other, they're interchangeable, so don't sweat that there. The cap is this black thing here. A lot of people sweat the cap. This is really a cosmetic thing, and it has no real purpose on this type of valve. The actual cap here, or I should say the closing mechanism for the valve, is manually actuated. So this is the main feature about the Presta valve. You have to manually open the valve like so, twisting this little nut on the top, and that will allow the air to go in and out. So before you attach your pump, you want to make sure that's open so you can attach the pump the air so the air goes in, and then after you finish pumping the tire, you want to make sure you close that nut back up so you don't lose the air. So that is the main feature of this Presta valve. Now there are some handicaps on this. So you have to have a special pump, which is not really that special anymore. Most modern bicycle pumps accommodate all kinds of valves and without any adapters whatsoever. But if you're using a compressor at home, you're going to need an adapter for the Presta valve. Now let's switch to the other kind of valve. Alright, so this is the other kind of valve. This is a straighter valve. This is the most common valve out there, especially for everyday bicycles pretty much. The straighter valve has less characteristics visible than the Presta valve. but you want to keep in mind the same information about the other one, about the valve length. The valve length is very important. You don't want to buy a short little valve that is not going to go through your rim, and then you're not going to be able to put some air in it with your pump. So here, as you can see, there's no threading or unthreading, there's no nut, and there's no other attachment that needs to be put on. So you have your cap here, which is, again, the cap is just a dust cover pretty much. And this is the valve. So on here, you just connect your pump, put the air in, and this will automatically shut off the flow of air. So as opposed to the pressure valve where you manually had to close and open the valve, this one automatically opens and closes as you pump air and you release the flow of air from it. The reason this is this is common in less high performance applications. So the pressure valve is more common on high pressure applications like road bicycle tires that go up to 120 psi. So that way, you don't have a chance of the valve actually failing, that automatic shut off mechanism. And on this type of valve, you'll find it in the low pressure applications like your cruisers, your hybrids, and some of your mountain bikes and stuff like that. So really great valve. Not one is better than the other, just there are different, and there are differences between them. So you want to keep those in mind. Again, when you are replacing your own tubes, look at the ones you have currently on your bike. Make sure you get the right size, and make sure they get the right valve length and the right type of valve for it. Alright, since we're in the topic of tubes, one last thing I wanted to mention is how do you know you have the right length, or how do you know the right length that you need to buy when you go to the shop and ask for a tube? So you know already what size you need, what size tires you have, what kind of valve, if it's pressed up or Schrader. So the last thing is a little bit trickier, because unless you have measuring tape, when you take the old one out, you can actually measure in millimeters how many millimeters the valve is, which is, most of us, we don't have a metric measuring tape at home. So what you want to do is bring your old tube to the shop. That way we can get you exactly what you need, or you can just cut off the valve and take it with you, and that way when you go to the shop, you ask for the size tube and you visually can open up the box and say, okay, this is the right size that I need for my valve, or for the valve length that I need for my rim. This is very important. You don't want to get a shorter one that is not going to go through the rim enough so you can put the pump on top, and also you don't want to get a super long one. Getting an extra or longer valve stem is better than getting a short one, but also if this is your regular valve stem, you don't want to go 3 times up, because then it's not made for that rim. You're going to have trouble with wobbling and maybe noises, especially with that pressure valve with the skinny one. So for the most part, the Schrader valve is really easy to replace. The pressure valve, I'm sure you'll get a hang of it once you start riding your bike a little bit more and you start experiencing flat tires, which everybody experiences, and you'll get a hang of this. But all this information is really basic, but believe me, in the shop we get phone calls every day asking for this simple stuff, and sometimes we are powerless to help people because we don't know what kind of bike you have and what kind of tires you are on your bike. So you have to know that information so we can help you, or you can help yourself in case you need to buy it someplace else, or you're out there change your flat tire. So with all this information, we're gonna demonstrate how to change a flat tire from scratch. Let's say you were out and about in the park and you got a flat tire. You got your handy dandy repair kit that you bought at the store with your pouch, spare tube, and some tools. We'll go over the tools and we'll go over the steps how to change a tire. So stay tuned and we'll get right to it. Alright, so this here is basically what you need to carry with you on your bike as a minimum in case you want to change a flat tire in case you have one while you're on a ride. Pretty much, this is your tool bag, so all this pretty much except for the pump is gonna fit here. This is just to carry this stuff. This is the primary tool that you're gonna need. This is called the tire lever, and this is used to kind of pry the tire out so you can remove the tube. Obviously, you need a spare tube that is good, so when you take the old one out that has a hole, you put the new one in and you inflate it back with your pump, or if you have a CO2 cartridge or whatever the case is, but you want some kind of inflation device so you can put air back in the tire there. So these are kind of the minimal equipment that you're going to need to perform this tire change on your own while you're out and about on a bike ride. We're going to see now, we're going to demonstrate you how to change that tire there. Alright folks, so let's get to actually changing a flat tire. So we're going to go over changing the rear tire here, which is most likely to puncture on a bike ride because most of your weight is distributed on the back of the bike. And it's also the hardest one to remove the wheel, that way you can get a sense of what you need to do. And I say the hardest one because the front one doesn't have the gear system here, so it's a lot easier just to take the wheel out and stuff. But the same information and procedures that we're going to do here will apply to the front tire. So now let's say you were just riding and you hit something, or you feel that your rear tire just went out of air, so you want to stop immediately. So don't keep riding with the flat tire. Could be dangerous, you could fall, and also you'll damage the tire more if you keep riding on it. So just pull over to a safe place, and you want, before you get to changing the tire, you want to shift your bike to the smallest cog here, which is the hardest gear, so that your chain is on that cog over there. So I'm gonna do that real quick and chain to the smallest cog, and this will ensure that you have an easy wheel removal process, and it will be easy to install it back on the bike too. The second step that you want to make sure is you want to unlock or unhook your brakes up here. So before you remove the wheel, you want to unhook your rear brake by taking the cable out here. This will open up the brake so you can remove the whole wheel. When you put the wheel back, you want to make sure you reattach your brake, and we'll show you that when we put the wheel back, but this is how you remove it. I'm going to put it back here. I'm going to remove it again. You just pull this portion forward and it will unhook there. So now that you have unhooked your brakes, you want to open up the quick release lever and give it a couple turns, and then you can see that the wheel falls naturally down and it'll pretty much fall out of the bike. Now I'm doing this in a stand here just for ease of the video, but when you're doing it out in the open, obviously you're not going to have a stand. So what you want to do is do these first two steps that I did, shifting it to the smallest cog and unlocking the brake, and then you want to just flip your bike before you remove the wheel. That way you can take the wheel out in the same fashion, but that way something is holding your bike and you're not setting it on the derailleur here and getting some extra damage there. Alright, just to show you really quick what I mean about out in the open and not having a stand. So let's say you were riding, you got a flat tire. You're going to do those two first steps that I show you up close, which is shifting the chain on the rear to the smallest cog. So I already took care of that, and I'm going to hook my brake here so I can pull out my wheel. So I'm going to flip my bike upside down like so. That way I can leave it there and I use my two hands to do the flat tire change. So I'm going to unhook the lever, give it a couple turns, And then I'm going to pull the wheel up like so. And there you go, you remove your wheel. Now you can change your flat tire. Alright, so now that we remove our wheel, we have our flat tire here. What you want to do is you're going to take your tire lever and we're going to start prying off one side of the tire only. You don't need to remove the whole tire. We just need to remove one side of the tire so we can pull out the tube. You want to start opposite the valve. So I'm not going to start here. I'm going to start opposite the valve. So I'm going to turn it. Then I'm going to use my thumbs to move it like that. And then just pry one side of the tire here. And hook it like so. And then I'm going to use the other tire lever to pry at a different place, you know, not too far away from the other one, like so. And then I'm gonna slide it out all around the tire like this until I come back to the same place. So that's the extent of the use for this tire levers. You're only gonna use it to do that, and then you can put them away. Now that you have one side open, you can pull the inner tube out. Take the valve. We throw that away. And we're going to put our new inner tube in. Before we put our inner tube in, we want to make sure that whatever punctured our tire is not still stuck in there. Because if it is, then when we put our inner tube in, it's going to re-puncture the tube, and then you're going to be out again on a flat tire. So if you don't have an extra tube, then you're going to have to call an Uber or something to come pick you up. So what we're going to do to check if something's stuck in the tire is just we're going to grab our hands and we're going to rub our fingers on the inside of the tire very carefully, because if it's something puncturing there, you might get stung or cut. So you want to be very gentle, but you want to go around the entire length of the tire. Make sure nothing is in there still, and visually inspect the top of the tire for something that is stuck in there. If there's something stuck in there, you just have to pull it out and do it before you put the tube in. Alright, so now that we have removed everything, we check for anything stuck in the tire. We're going to insert our new tube. So we're going to grab our new tube. You see here that the tube already has a little bit of air. So what you want to do before you put it in to make it easier, you just want to grab your pump and pump a little bit of air, so just to get it round like this. And that way it'll be easier to put inside the tire. So before, when we took it out, we started opposite the valve. Now we're going to start with the valve. So we're going to insert the valve first into the hole all the way, and we're going to tuck the tube in like this, and then we're going to work our way around the tire, making sure the tube is completely inside the rim there. And then again, from the valve, we're going to push the tire in, the seam of the tire inside the rim, and work our way around it. And notice I'm using only my hands. You don't want to use any tools at this point. And then that way we got the tire back inside the rim on that side that we took it off. We're going to check the other side, make sure nothing came out on this side too. And that way we are ready to pump the tire now. So we're going to pump our tire back up, connect our pump here, lock it in place, and then we're going to go and see how much pressure we need to put on this tire. Like I mentioned, that is printed on the side of the tire here. And this tire goes up to 85 psi. So we're going to pump it to 85 psi. Should take a couple pumps. Well, this is part of the exercise, folks. Alright, we're almost there. Alright, so we're back to 85 psi. We disconnect our pump and put our cap on, and there we change our tube, and this tire is good to put back on the bike. So let me get the bike back here and we'll put the wheel back on. Alright folks, so now that we changed our tube and we got our tire pressurized, we're going to put the wheel back into the bike, and this is how we left the bike when we took the wheel out. So we're going back to it and we're going to do pretty much everything in reverse of what we did. So we're going to insert the wheel like so. I'm going to lift the chain like that with our finger, let the wheel come down, and then we're going to make sure the chain on the bottom rests on that first cog there. Once we have it secure on that first cog there, we can release the top chain and then just grab the bottom wheel of the derailleur and pull it up and let the wheel fall into place there. And then once we have it into place there, we let go of the derailleur. If it's, not completely in there, we want to push it in and make sure it's in the slot. And then we just want to tighten the wheel before we flip the bike over. So we tighten a couple turns here on the skewer lever. Once you feel it tight there, you want to lock it in. Might take a little bit try and error here, so you want to force yourself, but you want it to be snug. And then give it a spin like this. Make sure it spins. So that tells you the wheel is good. And now we're going to flip the bike up. Before we get to go on our way, we're going to open up the lever again and close it again once we have it on this position. That's going to ensure if the wheel is offset in some way, when you open it up, the wheel is going to fall into place and make sure it's self-straightening out there. The last step is reconnecting our brake. So remember, we disconnected to take the wheel off, so now we have to connect our brake there so we have brakes when we go. And we do that again. So this is how you disconnect it, and then you connect it back again here. That way you'll have brakes when you start going. So now you have changed the tire on the go. You should have no problems there. If you get stranded on the road, as long as you have your tools with you, an extra tube, you'll be able to change the tires in an emergency on the road. And that way you can get home or get where you're going, and then make sure you replenish your stock of spare tubes. A good thing to have also on that repair bag that you carry with you, that I carry personally, is a set of latex gloves, because especially if your chain is really oily or greasy, you're gonna get a lot of grease on your hands. So before you start doing any work, put the gloves in. That way, once your work is done, take your gloves off, dispose of them, and then you can go on your way with clean hands as well. So I hope this video has helped you and you have learned about all the different features we talked about. We talked about recognizing the tire size on your bike, recognizing how much pressure you need to pressurize your tires, the different types of valves that we can encounter, the length of the valves, and how to go about and changing a tube when you get a flat tire. So if you have any comments, questions, concerns, you would like to see other videos like this explaining other topics, please leave us a comment on the comment section with your thoughts, and we'll be looking out to make more videos like this. We will try to respond to as many comments as you or questions as you leave us. And please subscribe to our channel, hit the notification button, that way you can stay tuned with more bicycle know-how. And see you next time.